Welcome to Tales from Tubi.
Hey Tubi friends! Welcome to a brand new episode of Tales from Tubi. For those of you who don't know what Tales from Tubi is, this is a series I do over here on the show where I dive through the good, the bad, and the ugly of Tubi to try to find you the diamonds in the rough. And let me tell you, it's more rough than diamonds most of the time. We are at the tail end of our October Anthologies of Horror. You've heard 3 previous episodes, 3 anthology films. Last week, most recently, I talked to Brett from Dissect That Film about Campfire Tales from 1997. This week, I have another guest, another anthology. We are going to be talking The Theater Bazaar from 2011. And I have a very special guest. We haven't been able to connect for quite a while. I want to welcome in Paul from The Countdown and the Slashers podcast. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well, Brad. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be back on the mic with your good self, and the first time on the newly labeled Tomb of Terrors. Yes. Tales from Tubi. There you go. I can do the T thing too.
I like to do a little, the tongue twisters, I guess. Not consciously. It was
not consciously. It just worked out that way.
It just worked out that way.
Really pleased to get the invitation to come and talk about an anthology film, even though it's one that's a little bit left of center.
A little bit, yes. And I think that's what all of them that I've picked this month have been, is a little bit left of center.
Deliberately? Was this like, I'm skewing away from the things that everyone's heard about? There's going to be no VHS films in my list. There's going to be no Body Bags with John Carpenter directing a part of it. Or I'm going to go straight to this stuff that either is really old or people haven't heard of before.
Well, what I did was I searched anthology films on Tubi and just kind of looked through a lot of them and just picked a bunch that I'd never seen or I've always wanted to see. If like, oh, I know what this one is, like Asylum from 1972, the first episode. I'm like, this has been on a list forever. I've always wanted to see it. So, and then from there, I just kind of picked decades. I did one from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and now we're 2010s, but we're in the 2000s. Drew and I, this is our 3rd year doing the 1031 movies, so that's why it's part 3 to finish off the month.
And I love the way that I lent towards Body Bags as a more known anthology film. I could have said Creepshow or Creepshow 2, Tales of the Dark Side maybe, but no.
No, you went right to Body Bags. The big well-known anthology film. Before you watch, had you seen this? Let me ask that. Had you seen The Theater Bazaar before this?
I've reached the age, Brad, if I'm really honest with your listeners, that I've seen films, but remember zero details about them until I am watching them. So this is 14 years old. I watched it at the time. Tell you what I thought about it as we progressed through the course of the film, or the podcast. But let's put it this way: watching it again, it wasn't like I was grinding my way through something where I knew every plot beat was going to happen, which is nice. It's nice to be able to watch something again and sort of see whether my original thoughts, although clearly I watched it as an adult 14 years ago, it's not like I can say I watched it as a kid and now here I am as an adult watching it again for the second time. But whether my thoughts then just before I started the Countdown podcast resonate today as a podcaster with a bunch of years under my belt, or whether it's a completely new experience and very, very different.
And you're coming off of, the Slashers podcast. You're going through decades worth, and you guys were just recently doing season 2. So watching all of that and then coming to this, it was probably a little different for you.
Look, a peek behind the curtains is, at the time of recording, we haven't finished watching all the films for season 2 of The Slashers. It's probably not about to premiere season 2, so we've got a bit of work to do to finish off the 80s. Yes, this is a very different film in some ways. In other ways, there's some strangely consistent themes and factors to this film, which is made 22 years after the last film we're watching for that series.
Ready to dive into The Theater Bazaar?
Certainly am.
Before we dive into it, I just want to say if you're in the Cincinnati area, come out to Frightful Fridays on the 3rd Friday of the month. So thankful to be partnered with the Esquire Theater to host a horror screening. Unfortunately, those listening just missed Halloween 3, which was last week. But that's okay. I'll be back in November as we are going to have the 40th anniversary of Fright Night from 1985. So come out November 21st at 10 p.m. and let's watch a movie together. Let's dive into the Theater Bazaar.
What a story. Not every horror is a creation of the mind.
It is about people.
What did you take from my baby?
You like me now?
A modern omnibus inspired by the over-the-top shocks of Paris's early 20th century theater du Grand Guignol. Enola Penny sneaks into an abandoned theater and witnesses 6 bizarre tales. This is directed by Jeremy Kasdan. He directed the kind of wraparound pieces. And then the directors of our segments, Douglas Buck, Buddy Giovinazzo, David Gregory, Kareem Hussain, Tom Savini, and Richard Stanley. This was a co-production from Severin Films and a French company, Metaluna Productions. Came out in 2011. I hadn't seen it before this. It's an interesting watch, I'll just say that. What were your initial thoughts after watching it, since you had watched it years ago but didn't really remember, and this kind of like watching it for the first time again?
I've been listening to Tomb of Terrors and before that Old Man Brad for long enough that when the best that Brad can muster at this early point in the review is, it was interesting. I'll give it that. It
was
not the greatest film that's ever been put to celluloid. Let's put it that way. I think, like most anthology films, there are better sequences and there are worse sequences, and apparently this was a co-production, US, Europe, and they got all given the same budget. I don't know what that budget was. All these directors, these 5 directors, I don't know whether Jeremy Kasdan with the wraparound had the same budget. Doesn't seem fair if he did, to be honest. But the other 5 got the same budget. Go away and make a film that's, like you said, designed to shock. Yeah. Designed to really, emulate that. You said it's French theatre, so sure, I totally believe that. If that's your MO, your goal, I think a couple of them arguably succeed.
Yeah.
Most of them fail, and fail pretty spectacularly.
I would have to agree with you. There are, and even the ones that fail, there are pieces that are like, oh, this is kind of cool. Why didn't you roll with this a little more? But yeah, overall, you can tell, I don't know what their budget was. They were all given the same budget and said, hey, make a short story between 15 to 20 minutes maximum. Make sure it fits within this range, and then we'll cut it together. We'll film a wraparound that they filmed after these were all done, and then we'll put it together as an anthology and see what happens.
The wraparound, Brad, in your opinion, does it have any substance at all, or is it a waste of space that just ties these things together in some very odd way?
I just look at it as it's a way you get Udo Kier to do his odd things. Like, it just felt like Udo was up there doing what we see him do in movies, 100 movies he's been in before. And it was there to, hey, here's the next one. And I actually kind of liked the wraparound more than the movies. Just because it seemed like there was more to it than some of these shorts. Some of these shorts just, it's like, oh, we have a camera and a few hours. Let's film something really quick.
Wow, you're even harsher on some of these stories maybe than I am. Can we start with the wraparound? Maybe we break it up that way.
We'll start with
you're the
the
host,
wraparound.
I'll shut up. Very thin, this idea. So a woman who's clearly not mentally well is crazily drawing shit on her walls and whatever, and looks over and sees an open doorway to a theater across the road.
And what does one do?
By morbid curiosity, what would you do?
Yeah, you just
walk in there.
You walk in, right?
And see random people sitting dead still because presumably they are corpses, but I don't think we ever get to see that for sure. And this weird mannequin-like Udo Kier shape. Oh, straight away, you'd be out the door. If Udo Kier is standing anywhere near me, I'm running in the opposite direction. But it's this weird mannequin with eyes closed and eyes painted on the closed eyes and weird makeup. And he introduces other weird doll mannequin things that represent each story as it's about to come along. And I didn't even pick this until I reckon the second from last story. She's becoming more mannequin-like while he was becoming... I saw how he was becoming more human-like, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't see her becoming more mannequin-like because she looked shit to start with.
Yeah.
Until the second last story. So that's a fail straight out of the bat.
I think I was the same way because I think it was when she really kind of started jerking, moving, and then obviously when they painted her eyes, it was obvious. But yeah, I didn't see her turning until towards the end when it was blatantly obvious of like, oh yeah. Because you could see him, like the makeup was slowly coming off, his eyes opened, and he became more human, so to speak.
I don't know if the film made a good enough contract with you as a viewer to explain why she just stood there and sat as she was slowly turning. Surely as you went, this is a bit odd and weird and I'm feeling shit. I'm walking out of here right now. No. They didn't explain why. She just sat there enraptured the whole time.
Anytime it cut to her, she seemed like after each story she was even more in fear than she was before. Like these were terrifying her. But I'm going to sit and listen to the next story. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to leave.
I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a scared time.
Yeah. Each one of these, they introduce the story. So there are 6 stories in total within this film. There is The Mother of Toads, I Love You, Wet Dreams, The Accident, Vision Stains, and Sweets. We start off, we go into our first story, The Mother of Toads, which is directed by Richard Stanley, loosely based on a story by Clark Ashton Smith with elements of Lovecraft's work within it. And it's set in France with an American anthropologist and his girlfriend who fall victim to a witch, like the Mother of Toads, who sells them a pair of earrings and shows the anthropologist the copy of the Necronomicon.
Was that what it's meant to be?
Yes. This story, I mean, we all know the history of Richard Stanley and, his Island of Dr. Moreau, and he did do Color Out of Space, which I absolutely loved, another Lovecraft movie. This one had moments that I'm like, okay, this one hooked me in well enough with, this Mother of Toads creature that we eventually see, the darkness in it. It started out a little bit of like, oh, what are we in for? This, I'm not sure because it seemed very odd. It eventually got better. There were a few scenes, like I think it was right at the beginning where they pull up to a cemetery and you have the cross in the foreground as they kind of turn around, almost a Night of the Living Dead road. It feels like they're driving up, but it felt very 70s. And I was like, oh, this kind of feels like a 70s movie right here. Maybe they kind of lean into that. No, they really didn't. My biggest gripe is the Toad vision, the Mother of Toad vision, I guess it is. I don't know, where it's like purple and green. Any movie, anytime you go to the creature's point of view and you do that, I can't help but laugh.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a lot that's laughable about this tale, to be honest.
Yes.
Yeah, this one didn't work for me very well. I never felt horrified. The most horrified I felt was trying to work out when the anthropologist is being screwed by a younger, much hotter woman with very, very fake breasts.
Yes.
Writhing on top of him, and his girlfriend comes to the hotel wherever the hell they're staying and looks in the window and aghast sees her boyfriend screwing someone else screwing her boyfriend, whichever way you want to look at it, and runs away in horror and is suddenly pursued by something. Now, here's where we get a little bit the logic of this one. And Brad, anyone who listens to me talk about films, particularly horror films, knows I get really down on films that lose their internal logic. So it's clearly the witch that's screwing him. Mm-hmm. She's become more attractive, a younger version of herself. Can't remember, he drank the tea or whatever it was, something that she offered him. So he's drugged. He's not doing this to cheat on his girlfriend. He's being manipulated and forced, so to speak, to do this. She sees him doing this and runs away to the car, and something chases her, or she feels like something's chasing her. The camera shows us potentially. And then from the back seat, the good old something's hiding in the back seat trick, claws, the Mother of Toad's claws come round the front and cover her face, and that's the last we see of her. We see we see a desiccated kind of corpse that's been rotted / turned into goop sitting on the back seat when he eventually comes to the car.
The effects of that looked great.
That was good. No aspersions of that. So how is a mother of toads doing that while she's writhing on top of his cock?
That is a very good question, because they wake up, I guess it's the next morning, he wakes up and it's like just this hand that reaches over the toad hand. I don't know how she's in two places at once. Maybe it's part of her magic, but yeah, it doesn't explain how.
The moment your explanation for things, unless it's a magic film, unless it's like, Harry Potter, the moment your explanation is magic, yeah, I'm out. So I was not at all happy with, and even the way this one ends, where he comes over, comes back to where she is, and now she's back in her old witch form, and she's like, basically, didn't you like it? What's your problem? And he runs away to the car, finds that corpse, the good practical effects corpse we've just mentioned, and then there's a mother of toads in her full toad form, and her stomach opens like a mouth and snaps onto his head, but we don't see anything else. It cuts away. I'm like, oh, film, you've let me down.
Maybe the budget that he was given didn't allow for the rest of that scene. Like, honestly, overall, I mean, we'll talk about the others, but this one, mostly I think because the effects. I thought the toad creature didn't look bad. What happens to the girlfriend, how she becomes all just slimy nastiness, looked really good. Even with I'm going to call it toad vision. Even with the toad vision and the logic, I mean, honestly, overall, was fairly enjoyable for me.
The best for you?
It's definitely one of the top two.
Okay, I have it third. This is my third favorite of the lot.
Okay. I think this would be in my top two, because there's some other ones that just, I don't know, that would knock it down. Now, let me ask you, he's really excited that she had the supposed Necronomicon, and he comes back so they can flip through it, and they go to the Mother of Toads, and then some strange old lady offers you a drink. Are you going to take it?
Look, no.
Speaking of logic.
And I'm pretty sure that if you brought your girlfriend on this tour of old school countryside France and she's freaked out and whatever, if you really wanted to still be in a relationship with her, you probably wouldn't let her drive off on her own, no matter how obsessed you might have been by whatever you are looking at. So the moment that they separate, he's dead, she's dead. It's just going to be a disaster. And poor woman, I feel bad for her, but he's a dickhead and got what he deserved.
He was kind of a jerk, wasn't he? He was not kind to her at all. I'm curious what your top two will be.
You're going to get to hear.
In between each one of these stories, we cut back to the theater, to Udo slowly becoming more human. Mm-hmm. The girl becoming more of like an animatronic robot doll person, but we don't really realize that until later. If you watch the movie, you'll see what we mean. And these little wraparounds, they're kind of odd.
They achieve nothing. They're annoying. They get in the way. Just jump to the next film and be done with it.
Well, they wanted to make an anthology. It was like, how can we cut this together? Apparently, he only came in. They shot all of this in one day. All of the shorts were done. They shot all this in one day and then cut them into the movie.
Not shocking.
Then we move into story number 2, The I Love You, with a man who awakens in a bathroom floor with bloodstains all over him, a cut hand, and he's an obsessive man who follows as his partner comes home. He's very obsessed with her. She wants to leave, and then he finds out she's unfaithful with him and that she had a child at one point, and a whole host of things happen from there. This one, again, just like the one before it, there were a few pieces I liked. Like, okay, he wakes up. Where am I? I'm covered in blood. What happened? I have a cut. But then you go to when his girlfriend comes home and this whole discussion. I was sitting there wishing it wasn't in English, because I feel like the main actor, he would have been better in
German.
Yeah, because the English acting, it didn't fully work for him. I think
Fair.
It would have been better that way. I don't know. This one was, I think this one might be a middle third, maybe fourth on the list.
Okay.
Of them.
This one's my second favorite of the lot.
Okay.
And the basic reason is, you're absolutely right. His acting in particular is not great. her acting's slightly better, but I think that's
not
largely
much.
because her English is slightly better. But she's also extremely hot by comparison to him. And so my first question about this whole thing is, well, why did you wind up with him? What did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah.
This sounds like I'm victim blaming. I'm not. I'm just like, what about him? 5, 7, 8, I can't remember. I think they do say how long they've been together for at some point in the dialogue. He hasn't changed from being, I don't know, in Brad Pitt looking or Glenn Powell looking to this bloke in 5 years. So why would you jump in with him now? Presumably he's super rich. Doesn't look like it. He's in a fairly standard looking apartment in Berlin. So that doesn't make a lot of sense either. What does make sense is she's fucking around on him with everything that moves, as she eventually reveals, because he can't satisfy her and he's not able to provide for her sexually in the way that she wants. She wants to be treated more roughly. She wants to have, that's her thing. And he won't, because he treasures her so much. He like you said, obsesses over her so much. He can't do anything to possibly hurt her until, of course, he can.
Yeah, he doesn't want, basically she says he treats her like does she say like a doll? Like he won't do anything that he thinks could harm, could hurt, could do whatever to her until he does.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in my line of work, what I do day to day, I get to see a bit of this sort of gender-based violence and the like. And so it resonated quite uncomfortably for me seeing this, even in a hand-fisted way like this story is showing, that I kind of bought into, like, she's not going about it smartly. In fact, she's as dumb as two planks. Why? Why would you tell him? Here's a lesson for your whole listening audience. There's no reasoning with the illogical. So someone who is highly emotive or someone who's in the midst of a really significant mental health episode, you can't reason with it. So why would she sit there and try to reason into allowing him, getting him to agree she's going to walk away from him and leave him forever? It's just, I'm almost talking myself out of liking this, but the whole story, it's dumb. But what resonated is his obsession, despite everything. He's I say resonates in the sense of, not that I agree with it at all, but I see too much of this in real life. I see too much of a guy, usually, not always, a guy usually who's obsessing about his partner in this way and can't let go and thinks that he knows better than they do. Not always a woman, but often usually is, and has to do things for. So it was uncomfortable for me, and it brought the horror out of the situation for me. And I quite liked the sort of time jump where he snaps and then we don't really see, and then it's back to the start again, and now we're seeing what actually happened.
Yeah.
And basically it's her ghost, or his vision of her ghost, who's telling him, you're inept, you're useless, and I'm leaving you. And so he says, well, I can't have this happen, and I can do anything that makes sense to me. And in a very good effect, slits his own throat. I'm like, okay, that works.
It was definitely a very dark, twisted story. When it started doing kind of like that time showing the backstory, because he wakes up on the bathroom floor again, he looks in the bathtub and there's a dead body, and then he comes out, she's dead, and he's trying to, like, well, she's dying at that point. She's not completely dead, and he's trying to get her to come back when you have her. I thought that end was very cool, the way, like, she's standing there talking to him and then she dies.
Body.
He's like, I can't, you're gone now. I can't go on. And
yeah, well, she basically says, you can't stop me from leaving anymore, and off she goes, because he's dead.
The more I think, especially the ending, as I think of these other ones, this one probably sets third on the list.
All right, so we're flipping second and thirds around. All right, I wonder if we have the same number one then.
Of course, we go back to the theater for another little snippet of Udo dancing around on stage or whatever he was doing.
I wonder how much you got paid for this. How much am I getting paid for you to put this makeup on my face for a day?
So you can slowly peel it off, and then I'll be good. So our third story is titled Wet Dreams. This was directed by the effects master, Tom Savini, about a man and his psychiatrist telling his psychiatrist about reoccurring nightmares about torture and castration, often at the hands of his wife, who he's betrayed and abused. This one was kind of weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
but in a good way, I would say.
It had some good Tom Savini effects in it. You have, especially at the beginning, where this man is having this dream about this woman, and when he starts getting intimate with this woman, she takes off her clothes, and her vagina is nothing but like, I guess it's like a bug, these big pinchers and face, and
these big mandibles where her pubic hair might be, yes.
It gets him, and he wakes up, and then he ends up like elbowing his wife in the nose, and he's kind of a jerk after that. He was like,
he doesn't care enough about he's done that. He's like,
you're fine.
Sorry.
Just put some makeup on it. You'll be okay, right?
Yeah. What a prick.
I'm like, wow. His psychiatrist is played by Tom Savini, and he keeps kind of having these dreams, whether he's falling asleep during the day or daydreaming or whatnot. And Tom Savini just tells him to count down and wake yourself up. It's pretty simple, right? You just,
how hard can it be?
You're having dreams about your wife serving you your penis for breakfast. You're having dreams about these creature mandibles. And then when he thinks he's awoken at one point from the dream, he is strapped to a chair, and his wife is there telling him, I found the remote to the TV so we can watch this and everything. And then you find out he has no arms and no legs. She has trapped him there.
And along the way, there's a couple of good moments, I think, in this one. In particular, actually, there's one question if I may start with that. I don't know many therapists who drink scotch and pour it out for their clients as well, and sit there and share a scotch through a session where the client is saying, or the patient is saying, because I think he's meant to be a psychiatrist, the patient is saying to the doctor, and I'm charging you for this? Like, I'm not sure that works particularly well as a therapeutic model. All right, so that aside, I like the fact that the twist is it seems to be her wet dream, right?
Yeah.
That she is the one, whether or not I think the film implies the reality is that she wakes up. It's her who's dreaming about castrating him, her that's dreaming about him being torn to pieces by herself or whatever monster lover that he's got. And then she answers the door, having woken up from this dream, and there's Tom Savini. And they're actually having an affair. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brad, the photo on the wall shows at one point that he's dreaming has a thing for Tom Savini's wife, who's the ultra hot chick at the start. The one with the mandible /
maybe,
yeah. Yeah, I thought, because he's like, so who is this woman? And then it cuts to a quick shot of Tom Savini, because of course he's got his super hot broad that's
of course,
his wife, because he's the director and I don't know if the writer, but the director at least. So it's almost like, does that mean the therapist knows? Are they actually having an affair? I'm not sure, but either way, he sells his client out, and he comes over, and clearly this guy's wife and his therapist are together, and he knows that she's got him with his arms and his legs hacked off. It's time to feed him, he says, and off she goes upstairs. And he says he threatens to kill her somehow, and she's like, by that stage, I haven't shown you that he's armless and legless. And then the camera pulls back and shows you that he can't, and she's, whatever she does, like almost chokes him to death and whatever else, just to show that she's got complete power over him.
Yeah, she like laughs at him. Scene towards the beginning where she's strapped to a table. Is it her that's strapped to the table where they pull her arms and legs off?
I think it's the lover. It's the lover, and
that's right.
And she's the torturous. Yep.
Which, I mean, you got Tom Savini. The effects are got to be good, and they are absolutely great.
This one's a pretty simple, straightforward story, which takes a couple of twists and turns. It's got the good Tom Savini gore. I mean, not that the acting's particularly good in any of these segments, but this is probably fine. Like, you really do hate this guy. He is a piece of shit, and he gets what probably fair to say, or at least close to it. He probably should just go to jail. Probably doesn't need this to happen to him, but he gets in a horror movie what he deserves. And I like this one. I think if the rest of the theatre bazaar had been as bizarre and as entertaining as this, it would have been a much better anthology film.
I agree, because I thought the Toad one was weird, and it kind of fit that weirdness. This is the same way. It fits that weirdness. The Love one is more of just a couple who are having some serious issues. This man is clearly obsessed. But I wanted more of like this one in the Toad, where I have some effects, some cool effects, some little almost creatures, some just off the wall oddness that isn't
bizarre shit.
That isn't Udo being a weird robot. Oh, I forgot at the end, like she cuts his eyelids off.
Oh, that's right, because he says he closes his eyes. Yeah, that's a good bit. That's a good effect too. That's awful. I'm like, oh, you get to eye shit. We're gonna do a bit more eye shit before the end of this.
We are
episode today.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, that puts me on edge a bit. I have to admit.
So overall, what does this one fit? Wet Dreams.
This is the best.
This was your top one. Okay.
Yep.
This was number 2 for me on the list. So I like this one, but it landed second.
All right. So probably between the two of us is going to be the highest of them all, because clearly what you have as number 1 is lower than 3 for me.
Of course, we cut back to the theater. More of the changes. I think at this point he's pretty human. Could we tell she's a robot yet, or are they animatronic? Because they keep cutting to all the people on the stage, and it's funny how they're all moving, and then sometimes they don't jerk move. And
yeah, as far as I was concerned, it wasn't until the second to last story you started to notice a difference about her. But to be fair, I wasn't watching closely enough. I'm just like, get to the next story.
And our next story is The Accident. I think this might be... Is this one the shortest of the stories, I believe?
Yeah, I think so. It's certainly the thinnest on the ground. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. A mother and daughter are having a discussion, and the daughter is talking about death and why people die. They're this back and forth, and to come to find out, they saw a crash of a motorcyclist who hit a deer. So the daughter's asking many questions of, can he come back as a zombie? You know, it would be a good zombie. And you see another biker who was there, an older man, which I think they were calling his father. And the deer, he kills the deer, and it's just creepy the way he looks at the kid. But it's a mother and a daughter really having a discussion about death, life. You know, people, why did grandma die? Does that mean she died so I could be born? Like that discussion, it was like, oh man, this is heavier than I kind of wanted right now as I was watching this. Mm-hmm. And the deer scene, that wasn't special effects. I think that was an actual deer sitting there.
Is that what you think?
That's what I clearly thought it was. Like it looked.
Sure, the tongue was a special effect. The deer tongue sticking out was what made it look stupid to me. It was so weirdly lolling there, like a cartoon graphic. I'm like, that made it look fake to me.
In my younger years, I used to go deer hunting with my dad, and
you would know definitely better than me. Any
that we shot, like when they were laying there dead, like the tongue is just hanging out.
Like that? Okay.
So watching that, it was I don't want to say PTSD, but it was almost like flashbacks to those times of seeing what I saw as a child with my dad and going, I don't think this is special effects. I think they actually have a deer here. I don't know if they actually killed the deer, like that part when he slices the throat.
2011.
But the way it's laying there, I was like, man, they either heavily drugged a deer or something, because it was uncomfortable.
Okay, maybe it had more effect of you, this story, than it did me. This feels wildly out of place, this story. There's nothing bizarre about it. It's a weird meditation on death and life and explaining that to a child. And I'm like, what's this got to do with anything? How is this horrifying? It just doesn't belong in a horror anthology film as far as I'm concerned. I think the director completely missed the brief.
It's definitely horrifying in the discussion of this child with a mom after what they just witnessed. Of course she's going to have questions. Of course she's going to ask about death and why people die, and am I going to get old? And she's like, not for a long time. I liked it, but then on the other hand, it was uncomfortable and I didn't totally like it. And then it was over. It was so short. It was like, oh, that's it? Okay.
Whereas I was like, yay, move on.
I didn't need any more after that, because after the older biker kills the deer and the blood's just running and he just has this creepy look there for a second, I thought he was going to kill himself as well, which that would have been a whole different traumatic experience for that girl.
Turned and stabbed the mum to death or something or other in anguish and angst over his own son, because somehow he thought the mother was driving the car and drove the man on the bike into the deer. That might have had something more like to do with the theater bazaar, but this just felt, like I said, for me, without without the lens of having been through what you've been through, Brad, I was like, This is losing me, this movie. It's gone from the highs to the lows of this next story.
It did. I didn't fully love this one. Like, this one lands second to last. It's not last,
this is
but
this is last for me.
Okay.
If you said any of the last two are your last, I'm certainly not going to argue with you.
We go back to the theater. More little transformations with Udo. Like, there's really not much to say between these between scenes. And then we'll move on to story number 5, Vision Stains. This is about a writer/serial killer who cannot dream. She extracts fluid from her victims' eyes as they die and injects them into her own eyes to see their lives as they flash in their dying moments, and logs it in a journal. And then she decides to take it one step further to see what happens. This has some eye effects in it that are very cringy, because we start out with this girl who is she shoots herself up. I'm guessing it's heroin. You know, she's a druggie. She shoots herself up, and then our main girl comes in and stabs the syringe into her eyeball, and we get to see it close up shot into the eye, and then she stabs her. And she dies, and after she dies, she pulls the syringe out and then injects it into her own eyes and sees like pieces of her life and everything else, and then does a whole little journal with a voiceover, and then we move on to the next one. And then eventually she's like, there's a pregnant woman. What would an unborn child see? What would that be like? So she decides to stab this woman in the stomach and inject it. And it doesn't go well for her. It is like a dark voice that tells her, I'm unborn. We haven't seen anything yet. And then,
you idiot.
Yeah, gets her to stab her own eyes out. And we see her with a blind, she's glasses on and a stick. And then she's happy now that she's blind, I guess. She can dream.
Because she says, I can dream now. So it's okay.
It's fine.
That's a weird trade-off.
Very weird.
I can't go about my normal day. I've torn my own eyes out, but I can dream, and I don't need to kill people anymore.
I mean, that's good. And she doesn't have to kill people anymore, I guess, right? Now, this one, I actually really like this one. I thought the whole concept of the killing someone, taking the fluid out of the eye, which anytime we saw that, it was very cringy, because anytime you mess with an eye, it's tough. And then injecting it to see what the person sees. It was very almost sci-fi-esque, because she even writes in her journal about how she's figured out how this works and how she can see the people's what they've seen, and I'm going to tell their stories. That's what she's doing. She's telling their stories of what she sees. I don't know. I like this one. I thought it was pretty good, and it got really dark at the end. And this one is my top one of all of these, just because you give me some good cringy eye stuff and a story that I was like, oh, I'm into this. I dig it.
Yep, I can see what, no pun intended, where you're coming from there. I agree with you about the effect of the needle in. I find it incredibly hard to believe that anyone would voluntarily inject anything into their own eye themselves.
Yeah.
That's how desperate you must be. Of course, that's desperate after killing someone to get that ocular fluid, which somehow has their memories and their visions and whatever else, and you can put it into yourself. I was enjoying it, if I can use that term, all the way up until we take the amniotic fluid and I inject that into my eye, and then this voice of beyond. That you've lost me now. You idiot. We got no memories yet. So this is the voice of some kind of deity or demon or whatever it is. And I'm going to drive you mad. And the only way you're allowed for this to stop is to rip out your own eyeballs. Seems a very, very spurious connection of all these things that are coming together.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really work for me, the last part, particularly the fact that she chose to shoot that up while being naked. Why?
That is a very good point. I didn't even think about that. The director's like, hey, how do you feel about nudity in this scene? We're going to go ahead and do this.
I hope she was paid more, because it made zero sense to the story whatsoever. silly moment.
Have you ever seen the show Letterkenny?
No.
Okay,
I have
because
not.
she's the main girl. She's from that show. She plays one of the characters in it. Because when she came out, I was like, oh, that's. So I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, yep, that's her. That's her.
Cool. Well, I'm glad she went on to better things than because Letterkenny has more than one season.
This, I don't know. It feels like a story that would be in an anthology film, especially one that you're going to call the Theater Bazaar.
Yep, it fits the bill. I will 100% agree. It fits the bill. It's unlike our last story before, which does not fit it at all. This one totally does. Like I said, spurious in its reasoning, and I think its internal consistency makes little to zero sense. Hence why it's lower down as low as number 4 for me.
Okay,
but I do understand where you're coming from. Like if the eye stuff made you that uncomfortable, that will get you.
Yeah,
there.
if you don't like eye stuff, you might. If you're watching the Theater Bazaar, you might want to skip this one because it's right close. You get right on the eyeball and you see it going all in, and it's like
good effect.
Some Lucio Fulci zombie eye poking.
Infamously great scene.
All right, back to after our story. Back to Udo. He's fully human now. She's fully animatronic robot. Before we go to our last story called Sweets. This is a story of Estelle and Greg, a pair of food fetishists who gorge on sweets in their breakup, which ends in gourmet cult feast with Greg as the main entree. Now, this fits the full bizarre piece of
No question.
this anthology. And this one was just gross. This one's the bottom of my list. It was gross. It was weird. And I was like, what are we doing here? Why? I don't understand.
This one failed on multiple levels, if I may. And you've just told the whole story. There's not much really more to tell, except it's her seemingly trying to break up with him. Again, trying to reason in an unreasonable situation. And of course, anyone who's been broken up with before, and I certainly have, it hurts. It's a horrible, horrible experience to go through. And you do want answers. You don't go as far as he goes to get those answers, though. At some point, if you've got any balance whatsoever to you, you go, this sucks. Okay, get out.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Like, all right, I want to be alone. I want to hurt. I don't need you here. She just sits there like an automaton, just saying, yeah, I did this. And we keep flashing back to moments of the history, which are all about food and the gross things, as you say, that they're doing. And there are legitimately gross things.
Yeah.
Like the horror at the end is not gross. The gross stuff is what they're doing with food. And it's all sweet food as well.
Yes.
I think that's why it's called what it's called.
The whole piece of it, he's sitting on a couch with like food around him. He's got stains all on his shirt, eating cookies and whatnot. She's eating an ice cream cone. And they're talking back and forth. And then they cut back the one scene of in the bathtub that's like full of whipped cream, I'm guessing. And she climbs on top of him and then injects it into him as he throws up. And she's like, starts smearing it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is no.
And I couldn't work out what was real and what wasn't real in the visions of the back. Because in every flashback, she's wearing a different wig.
Yes.
And she's dressed up like a different doll, almost like a fetishistic kind of, or almost a fantasy, right? But then we need to explain why he's so into her, why he's prepared to go this far, why he's prepared to be led on a leash into a room full of people. Now, I'm sure there are some people out there who might enjoy such a thing. No judgment.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, of that, as long as it's safe, sane, and consensual. But he quickly doesn't want to be there. And what has she said to him to get him to that point? Like, we skipped that part of the narrative. He's so desperate, he'll do anything to keep her. And I'm like, why? Because she wears different wigs and she's hotter than you are? Once again, we're in another story where a relatively, I want to say, unattractive man, I'm sure he scrubs up just fine if he wasn't made out to be all with food.
He didn't have
him and whatever
nasty clothes and food all over him. Yeah.
Is debasing himself and making a fool of himself and humiliating himself for this woman who doesn't want anything to do with him, which is now at least 2 of the stories, arguably 3 if we talk about our favorite one, Wet Dreams as well. She clearly doesn't want anything more to do with him, but that's more about abuse and having to get out of that and can't, and so takes extreme measures. It's just a weird thematic run through this anthology of half the stories are about breakups in really spectacularly shit ways.
I kind of want to those directors, because they were just given, here's your budget, run off here, make your movie. Those directors would be like, what was going on in your life at this time that you're like, you had something to say? Because I know the Tom Savini one, his was based off of dreams that he had. I mean, that makes sense. So
you could even argue the first story, Mother of Tears, is about a breakup. She runs away from him because he's fucking someone else.
Yeah.
So there is a real thematic link through all these films, which apparently the most bizarre thing that the theater can show you is the end of a relationship.
And this one ends, she brings him in and basically he's like the dinner. They behead him and string up his body, and while his head, I guess, is still alive, like watching, they cut him open and she pulls out his heart and is like licking and eating on his heart, and
then she winks at the camera to finish this whole thing off.
Haha, we got you. And I'm like, oh, no, you didn't. No.
Is the implication here, Brad, that humans are the sweetest thing of all? Is that what the film's trying to say? Because otherwise, why has everything been about sweets? And then we get to flesh and everyone's gorging on it so orgasmically. I get the food fetish side of things, and what's the most forbidden food / fruit, human flesh, presumably cannibalism. Every other film I've ever led to, he hastens to add, because not from experience, every other film I've ever watched suggests that human meat is like meat of anything else. It tastes good, but it's like chicken or pork or beef or whatever. It's not sweet. It's not something you have after you've eaten everything else.
I don't know.
I mean, it is if you're trapped in the Andes and there's nothing else to eat. But I mean, in terms of, it's not an after dinner food, is what I'm trying to say.
It is for them when they're munching on him, and she's just the way she stands there with this heart in her hand of like, yes, I got like she has like the prized apple or something like that to eat in her hands. It just, I don't know. Yeah, it's one,
a bizarre way to go out. Yeah,
it fit the bizarre piece of theater bizarre. It was odd, and I guess it fits in with an anthology that you call the theater bizarre. That's for sure, but it just did not work for me. Like the effect of them beheading him and everything else, like the bloody effects of it. I mean, they were good. They did a good job with that, but
yeah, we're scratching a bit here on this one. Let's be honest.
No, did not work. And even, I forgot, even the last imagery, it was like the Last Supper. They're all standing at the table.
That's
with
right.
Them
Is that when
across.
she winks after that?
Yeah. I forgot about that part. But yeah, no, this one's my least favorite of all of these.
It's my second least behind. It's slightly ahead of the accident one, which is just completely out, again, purely for the point of view that this one fits the theme of the theater bizarre and, as we said, relationship endings, but the other one is just completely out of place. So yeah.
And then we end. Udo's fully human. She's fully animatronic, and it ends with him basically putting her in a box, and then it ends. That's it.
Presumably for her to jump out at some stage in the future when some other poor soul walks in.
Yeah.
And for it all to repeat again, and hopefully that poor soul who walks in gets to watch better films.
So that is the theater bizarre. What would you rate this movie out of 5?
1.5.
1.5. Okay. For me, I've been having you know the type of movies I watch. So for me, I was like, well, it wasn't good, but I'm going to land at a 2 out of 5, because there are pieces that were fine, but overall it was like, I'll probably never watch it again, honestly.
Brad, if you and I were to put our ratings alongside all the films we watched together, you would have a 0.5 star average rating higher than me. So we call it the Brad tax if you want. And that definitely,
there we go.
That definitely fits. That whatever Brad's got, minus it by half, and probably in the ballpark where I'll start. So yeah,
most of the time. And there's a lot of times where you'll give it a 1. I'm like, no way, this is a 5-star movie, or 4 or 5. I don't know.
Was it Crabs? Crabs.
Yes, love that movie so much.
Yeah, not so much. And there's every so often, even more rare than that, there is a time I look on Letterboxd and you've given it a low score and I've given it a high score. I'm like, what is wrong with the world?
And sometimes we align. It's the balance that we have. That's what it is. Well, Paul, I want to thank you for coming back and chatting the Theater Bazaar for our October Anthologies of Horror.
Pleasure to be a part of it. Thank you very much for the invitation, Brad. I've really enjoyed getting to talk about this more than I did watching it. Let's put it that way.
The Countdown's not a regular show as it was in its previous form, but what stuff are you doing, you and Wayne doing at the Countdown? And, talk about the upcoming Slasher Season 2. Go listen to Slasher Season 1, everybody. Please
do. By now, well, if it's out in a week or so, hopefully, if not now, then very shortly the first episode of Slasher Season 2 will drop, and that's going to cover 1985 through to 1989 with a couple of double-up episodes where we've got 8 or 9 or 10 films from that year to talk through, and myself, Jason from Binge Movies, who, of course, anyone who follows you, Brad, will be very familiar with. I think Jason's been on this show once or twice before as well.
He has. I had him watch it. Last time he was on, we watched a Bruno Mattei movie. Was it The Night Killer? Talking about an odd film.
And Megan Kearns from Spoiler Piece Theatre and is a bona fide real critic, which is fun. Adds a more serious lens to discussions. Obviously, Jason is an encyclopedia for what he knows about film and horror and slasher films in particular. And then myself, who just sort of weighs in there as the token international guest to offer my apparently blood perverted version of things in terms of I like gore, and that's what I bring to the table. So yeah, a lot of fun with those two wonderful podcasters. So do check it out, please. If you're a fan of Brad's show, I'm sure you're going to kick out of the slashers. The Countdown's a bit more wider, dispersed, not horror centric at all. My co-host Wayne is a big wussy girly blouse when it comes to horror films, and he'll be the first to acknowledge that. So I very rarely get to talk about horror films with him.
It's fun when you do get him to watch a horror film, though.
I have taken a lot of perverse pleasure out of putting my best mate through some really horrible moments that he's hated in terms of his film watching career. But that aside, yeah, we're coming together just probably once every couple of months, record a couple of episodes. We'll have one dropping very shortly, probably around the time this one drops, for our top 10 books that we've ever read. And so Countdown is 10 to 1 and something or other. Usually it's film and television. Every so often we branch out to other things, like in this case books. And then we're coming towards the end of the year. We will do our worst 10 films of the year, our best 10 films of the year, probably with Jason from Binge Movies, the aforementioned. And our best and worst of television will be the episodes to end 2025 and start 2026. So that one's more fun in the sense of Wayne and I just give each other shit.
It's hilarious. If nobody listening to this has ever listened to the Countdown, go listen to Wayne and Paul. Just the banter of those two back and forth is hilarious.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Very kind.
And the slashers, season 1, I love season 1 because, like you said, Jason comes in with the knowledge. Megan's in there. She's kind of like the level, kind of keeps you guys, tries to keep you guys level as you'll give some hot takes and Jason will lose his mind. And
sounds about right. That sounds about on point.
It's good stuff.
Actually, if I can mention one other thing I'm doing is I'm featuring in a fair few of the last season, the final season of Binge Movies. I'll be on, I believe, 4 of the episodes. A couple have already been recorded. So I'm also going to be featuring there with Jason in long form discussions. I probably shouldn't spoil the topics because I'm sure Jason will reveal those in due course.
Yeah, we don't want to give it away because he likes to bring that out and keep us in suspense.
Build up.
Yeah. And if anyone ever needs one of the best episodes ever to listen to is when Hellraiser 3 made it all the way through to the end. Go search that one out if you look up Binge Movies because it is fantastic.
100% agree. And it may get a mention many times in the final season of the show.
Thank you again, Paul, for coming on. I hope you'll come back again. Well, I'll pick something maybe a little better to do next time. A little more enjoyable. How about that overall?
Love to. We'll love to. And anytime you want to rank some films, best of the year, worst of the year, maybe worst of the year, let me know. I can always come back and help you with that.
Absolutely. I will have a best of the year coming. That will do it for this episode of Tales from Tubi. Just make sure you subscribe to Tomb of Terrors and you never miss any of these episodes from this series or short reviews, interviews, whatever I do over here. I'll be back next week with Drew from the Real Feels podcast as we talk 1031 Part 3. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.